Hi everybody, I'm Captain Floofers, and welcome back to the Archipelago Solo Multiworld Randomizer Challenge. Just a heads up, the next several videos in this series will be of a different nature. Since I'm focusing this challenge down in my leisure time, I'm not always going to be up for being on camera while doing so. So in these instances, I will be capturing footage and editing it together from post-commentary. As a result, these particular videos will be much shorter, and instead of looking at my stupid face in the corner, you'll be seeing this picture of Jitters from Animal Crossing instead. Anyway, last time we had started looking deeper into Mystic Quest, as a lot of checks were opened up once Super Mario World was cleared. I started this session by heading into the mine from the Fireberg area, as there were a few things I could uncover here, even though I still need the Mega Grenade to do a full clear. I used the bombs I did have to open up a cave to the north of the entrance, and after cutting some paths through some enemies, I was able to find the Master Sword for Link to the Past in one of the chests. From there, I navigated an area jam-packed with conveyor belts and entered a couple more side caves, but found nothing but trash before heading over to the Djinn, the boss of the area. After handily dispatching him due to being at endgame levels with the endgame companion, it opened the way to a few more chests. The chests yielded, among other things, a Power Star for Mario 64 and Undyne's Letter for Undertale. Since it's been eons since I've played Undertale, I'm not sure exactly how to use that towards my goals, but it's marked as EX, so it must be important. Now, without the Mega Grenade, I can't trigger the event with Ruben's father, so there is a chance we may return here if we don't clear the game before receiving it. From here, I head down to Pazuzu's Tower, a location that I had been dreading. And to be fair, when you explore the area in vanilla, you don't have a companion and you're kind of at a lower level, so it is harder to handle. But first things first, we do save Otto's daughter, which will lead to a check later, and I head up to trigger Pazuzu's initial teleport. Yes, we do still have to put up with this. I start carving my way to as many chests as I can find, but my worthwhile check wasn't until my return trip down the tower to try to find where Pazuzu went. It was the red skull key for E3M7 in Doom, by the way. But yeah, I went all the way up to the top and was on my way back down, scouring each floor looking for Pazuzu's location before I found anything good. The very next chest did yield the Wake Water, though, so that can be used for some more checks once we've dealt with Pazuzu. While scouring the second floor, I was able to unlock Map 22 for Doom 2. I also found Pazuzu, so I hit the lever near him to limit his teleport options to not the bottom floor, which really isn't too much of an improvement to be fair, but every little bit helps with this stupid place. Unfortunately, all of the enemies I had to oust from my path had depleted Phoebe's air supply by this point, so that wasn't great. At least Phoebe could still do some amount of damage by punching things. Even though Pazuzu couldn't go down to the ground floor anymore, though, there are still some chests down there. And it's a good thing I looked, too, because I find the wing cap for Super Mario 64, which is pretty huge. I also score another Power Star and an emblem for Sonic for good measure. With all of the available chests opened, I track down Pazuzu a couple of times and lock him on the 6th floor, where the boss battle kicks in. The boss fight does take a little while, but goes fairly smoothly. It probably would have gone faster if Phoebe still had some arrows, as Pazuzu is weak to projectiles, but after I remembered that I had the flare spell on my person, that sped things up. In the end, I got the Wind Crystal and a Link to the Past heart container for my trouble. I had found a few of those beforehand, but didn't really call them out since they're not technically important. However, I am keeping a track of a Link to the Past heart container count since I want it to be at a certain level before I go for Aghanim's Tower or a rematch with Blind. With the Wake Water now in play, I thaw out Aquaria and now can access Spencer's place, and Spencer himself unlocks E1M4 in Doom for me. The chest next to him is locked, but the other chest I can reach in here does have Pokemon Emerald's basement key in it. Also, with the area thawed, I can finally take care of the remaining battlefields, which yield the red key card for Map 05 for Doom 2. There's also a new chest I have access to by entering into the back entrance of Focus Tower, at least the one that's not locked by the Venus key, and this gives me a punch card for Undertale, which I don't really know what that does. After heading back to Windia to try and trigger the remainder of the Rainbow Bridge, I realized that despite the fact that I had been to Mount Gale a long time ago, I hadn't technically cleared it, as I noticed that the strong winds were still blowing. Since I had the grappling hook now, I was able to make my way to the fight with Dullahan. The first attempt actually ended in failure. Phoebe ended up getting knocked out, and Meteor, which I started casting as he was resistant to flare, was doing reduced damage for reasons that didn't register with me at first. Some glitch had kicked in where the spell was damaging him, as if the damage was still split among him and his adds, even though the adds were no longer in the picture. After getting caught in a logic loop for a minute or so trying to keep myself alive, I let the battle end so that I could start over. This time, Meteor went off without a hitch, and I was able to dust a hand without giving it a second thought. With Mount Gale actually cleared for reals this time, I head back to Otto once again to beseech him to extend the bridge, but it turns out that I need another key item, the Thunder Rock, to get this to happen, and with all of the available checks now completely accounted for, I decide to move on. I do recall that the original plan for the end of the session was to play Ocarina of Time, but I decided to play Link's Awakening instead. It's likely due to some Ocarina checks that I wasn't looking forward to, but either way, there weren't a huge number of checks. I started off by going to the cave in the mysterious forest that you go through to get the mushroom, and ended up finding Ocarina's Goron tunic inside the chest there. On the other side of the cave, the mushroom spot held another power star, and I also ended up getting a freebie mushroom for my trouble. The one accessible chest in the cave behind Mr. Wright's house yielded another power star, and from there I went back to Bottle Grotto, as I could now make more progress since I had the Rock's Feather now. In the room after the Hinox fight, I found that the owl statues actually yielded hints for other Link's Awakening related checks if you had the beak, as the statue told me that there was a secret seashell on Route 110 in Pokemon Emerald, just south of the rival battle there. Speaking of Emerald, I found a couple valuable items for that game, but then I ran out of checks that I could make for the dungeon, so not entirely worth the trip, unfortunately. After warping back to Mabe Village with the Save and Quit menu, I realized I could now steal from the store since I had the sword now. Unfortunately, I learned that both checks were just wasted Doom 2 pickups. I hope that box of shotgun shells was worth it, because now I'm branded as a thief for the rest of the game. The check under the graveyard was another bust, and I headed up to the Moblin Cave for my last chance at progress. Fortunately, instead of Bow Wow, I ended up saving Knuckles' Hammer Gloves upgrade, meaning that I could possibly make a little bit of progress in Sonic Adventure 2. And with that being my last check for Link's Awakening, I went ahead and called it for a session. Now, in between this session and the next, I decided to change up my approach to handling the games a little bit. At least for the next couple of sessions, I would focus more on games that I hadn't been playing as often, so we will begin the next video, believe it or not, with some VVVVVV. But until then, I've been Captain Floofers, and I'll be here next time. Join me, won't you?